inspired you to do this today? Where are you from, tuning in, and what has inspired you to do this today? I really feel like there's just such a strong energy, and the focus is which is going to rise. And I'm really feeling that right now in so many different ways. It's so good to see all of you. So empowerment. Yeah, wow. I just want to encourage everyone too, even if you're maybe a little bit too shy to write into the chat box yourself, but I just want to invite you also to look into the chat box and look at what is coming through. It's this really beautiful energy of being ready for change, more connected to the inner witch. Yes. Yeah. And, for me, it's always really nice, even though we have like a very large, beautiful group here, for me, it's always really nice when we do this online work to just really feel connected to all of you. So I want to encourage you, if you chose to be here for this time, just really tune in and just really fully allow yourself to be here completely. And yeah, let's start just with going ahead and closing your eyes and just taking a few moments to just feel how capable you are. And how light you are. Just coming into your presence and just feeling if there's any frustration, just feeling that. If there's any anger, if there's a sense of rushing, just allowing yourself to feel all of it. And at the same time, just again, feeling your capability. And coming into the space when you're ready. So I want to thank you for being here. I am giving you this webinar today. I want it to really just be a gift for you in so many ways, and hopefully it will take you into your weekend feeling really empowered and strong and present. I also am just going to be totally transparent and tell you I have full intentions of convincing you to join Witch Wound, which is starting next week. This is a course that I offer. Witch Wound in the autumn, Witch Wise in the spring. I'm not totally sure, but this might be my last live containers of doing this offering for this autumn and for this spring. And we do still have a few spots left for Witch Wound. So full transparency, my intention is to get you to just say, yes, I want to learn more about being my own healer. I want to learn more about that connection to spirit and the divine feminine, and open up my witchy ways and open up and inspire that inner creative. So I'm going to join Witch Wound. So full transparency there. Also, though, last week I did an Instagram live, and I just had it a little bit with Instagram and how I am always shadow banned on Instagram. And I know that this happens to a lot of people out there. And this is something that I've been dealing with actually ever since I began speaking about the witch wound in general. And I've noticed that, you know, I'm not really one of those people who gets into like the they is doing this or the them, but let's just say for right now, when I'm referring to they, it's with Instagram specifically. But I really do feel like we have to be aware of like divide and conquer techniques. And, you know, last year or earlier this year in the spring, I did a webinar similar to this format for Witchwise, where I was talking about manipulative energy work versus transformative energy work. And if I would look at the energy that Instagram and social media puts out there, it just is really like manipulative energy work. Actually, it feels like a sticky kind of like bad spell in a way. And I think that can be transformed and shifted and changed, but I think it starts with us. So this webinar was actually inspired by wanting to go a little bit deeper actually into this topic, because I think it's something that a lot of people are facing. A lot of people, probably all of you here now, who want to, you know, inspire and share their light and share their kindness and their creativity with the world. I call this the witch light. They were ready to share their light with the world. And then Instagram is like, no, sorry, we don't want that light. We actually want separation. We want selfishness. We want vanity, and we want darkness. So sorry, you can't be on here basically, right? So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then also, I really wanted to, at the end, save time for a ceremony to just energetically help to release repression. I know that a lot of us can feel that sense of like suppression and repression and the frustration it brings, building up in our jaws and on the roof of our mouth and in our throat. And some folks have even embodied this so much and created issues with like TMJ or thyroid. And I do think that comes from, you know, being conditioned towards suppression for so long, and us learning how to edit and suppress and repress ourselves eventually based on our conditioning. I want to talk about this. I want to do this ceremony at the end and just release some of that energy that's all built up in here. One of the things that I'm going to be doing in this round of Witch Room that is very, very different than what I've done before is incorporating my work with shamanism a little bit more. And so I'm really going to be working with plant spirits in today's ceremony at the end of this webinar. I let the curtain down a little bit about the energy work that I do. I'm going to leave like the nuts and bolts and bulk of it for Witch Wound, because I really think that people are ready to go a bit deeper into energy work at this time. Whether you've done Witch Wound or Witchwise before, whether this is your first time, I just feel like this container of people is ready to go a bit deeper into energy work. And I work with nature spirits. I work with nature spirits. Who are the nature spirits? What are the nature spirits? That I'll leave a secret, but I work with nature spirits. I call them, and I see where there is a split or a separation in the energy of a person, in the energy of a group of people. And I call on the nature spirits to help to mend and unite what has been separated. This is a big part of how I work with energy. It's about creating unity. So you'll get a little feel of that, different than the context of a medicine reading ceremony. You're going to get a little feel of that in today's webinar for the ceremony. So I'm very excited about it. But yeah, I do kind of want to start there, right? I want to start there. I want to start with this separation. And I was asking myself, like before this webinar, how do we rise? How do we rise? So I want to end at how we rise, but I want to first look at this separation that we all feel, because yes, we're suppressed, but we have to see that we are so separated from aspects of ourselves, to the point where, you know, people who are spending a lot of time on Instagram, on TikTok, or whatever their social media outlets are, can't even really fully formulate very clear, articulate sentences anymore. It's like attention gets lost in the middle of a sentence, and there's a pause, and the subject changes, and then they go back into what they were talking about, and it's just a lot of yeah, and it's being heard, but it's not, nothing is really being digested, because there's always so much coming at us all the time. In today's webinar, I really, and actually throughout the course of Witch Wound, I really want to make sure that there's time to digest the information that's coming through. It is actually, Witch Wound is 7 weeks. It's a smaller container than I would ideally want it to be. I would want it to be 7 years. I would want to have 7 years with you. I mean, we're not ready for this kind of work just yet, but that's ideally what I would want. So I get to open up these different containers so I can go into the essence of different topics that I want to really allow you to take time to digest. But, you know, we're overwhelmed, we're separated, and then at the same time, so suppressed. I mean, I feel like it's a little bit of preaching to the choir, so to speak, if I were to get into how women have always been suppressed, and this is probably because we're so freaking powerful that somebody's got to try to tone us down a little bit. So I don't think we need to get into that too much. I actually want to get into specifically women who are not willing to exploit themselves on Instagram or in different forms of social media in order to get ahead, right? I see a lot of people who were really coming up in the healing and wellness world around like 2016, 2017, and they have just been like really chasing fame so much, and to the point where there's a willingness to exploit yourself. There's a willingness to, you know, do like nude provocative photos or twerk, or and that's all fine if that's what somebody really wants to do, but I think it's really important to look at what we do for that sense of approval and that sense of likes, and is it really all worth it? And is there a point where we lose ourselves a little bit in this? You know, in Witch Wound, I'm writing out the workbook right now. I'm on chapter 2, which aligns with week 2, which deals with sexuality and spirituality. And I have a very, very different take than what is out there on sacred sexuality, a very, very, very different take. And I think that my view on spirituality and sexuality, or sacred sexuality, is so different, because I feel so compassionate towards the witch. I feel so compassionate towards the witch. And again, I'll leave that a surprise for the ones who actually join Witch Wound. But one of the things we see exploited out there a lot on Instagram, or a way that people exploit themselves, is within the concept of sex magic. And I have to tell you, like, what is out there and what is available on Instagram, it is not actually sex magic. That is actually not what it is, and from my opinion, right? Actually, all magic, right? All the magical spells we could ever imagine, we could ever do. All magic is meant for healing. This is the message of nature. Just watch nature, right? All magic is meant for healing. It's meant for growth. It's meant for arising, abiding, and fading away. It's meant for renewal. All magic is meant for healing. Magic is actually not meant to be used to get what you want. And I know that's not a sexy thing to say, but it's true. Magic is meant to be used for healing. And oftentimes it means healing ourselves so we can create a vibration of healing out there in the world. But yeah, magic is actually not meant to be used to get a house or car or these like material things that we don't actually need. I think that one of the things that has really gotten us kind of off track a little bit with social media and Instagram and all of that is the feeling like we need way more than we actually do. And when you go into nature, you realize how incredibly provided for you are. But we don't need so much. And we definitely don't need to use manipulative energy work, manipulative magic. We certainly don't need to exploit ourselves and use sex magic to get what we want, even if what we want is recognition. So I'm going to be really getting into that a lot too, because that feels really big. But I think at the same time, there's like a fine line with what feels exploitative and what feels expressive. Like where are we just expressing ourselves and where are we exploiting ourselves? Like for me today to express myself, it was like, wear the aster crown. That feels important. And I think aster is such a resilient little plant and so inspirational. And it felt like an expression of the energy that wanted to come through for me today. But if I forced myself into wearing the aster crown every single day, I feel like I would get tired of it. It would feel forced. I feel like I would be forcing my creative spirit to do something it doesn't want to do. And for those of you who are really present on Instagram, don't you feel like sometimes you're just forced to do so much of what you don't actually want to do? And even if you are sharing really beautiful medicine and messages out there in the world, doesn't it become exploitive of our creativity, which by the way is also our sexuality, if we are forcing ourselves constantly to produce and create in the same ways over and over and over again? I think it is also, as we are repressed, as witches have been repressed for so long, it is also just uncanny to me, this word shadow banned, because the energy of the witch has been so banned to the shadows for centuries. As soon as maybe major religions came out there, or the medical complex, or a combination of the both, as soon as these things started coming up and there was profit to be made from healing, the witches got kind of shadow banned. Not kind of, I mean, the witches got slaughtered, they got slaughtered. And I think that even though it feels ridiculous to be affected so much by what's going on with Instagram, it also is, I think, very triggering of the witch wound to constantly be shadow banned for me. It just is like, oh, okay, here this is again. It's just in a new digital format. It's just in a different way. But okay, here it is again. Going to be shadow banned again. Like when are they going to try to completely split apart all healing, because that's probably exactly what's happening right now. I try not to be too affected by it, but it is actually very triggering of the witch wound. Like, oh, you want to share healing, you want to create a beautiful community, you want to do all these things. We're going to try and block you from doing it at every step that you take. It is triggering of the witch wound. And it's sort of what it means to be a modern day witch, to face these things, these trials, these difficulties, and find, like water, our ways around or through any of them, right? But also, I am the sole breadwinner of my home. I have built my business over the course of 20 years and really built something from nothing, and relied a lot on Instagram to share my work. And it also is like triggering of that feeling of, okay, well, I really have to become like water fast and soon. And it makes me think too about generosity, right? Because I know, like many of you, I am someone who loves to share and loves to give. And I feel that there was this really interesting reflection I had today while I was preparing for the webinar on generosity, where it's like, even the fact that we love to give and love to share is exploited and taken advantage of. And I think that when we allow our energy to be taken advantage of, it's sort of like taking that energy and throwing it into just a black bottomless pit. You've had this before. Someone who you love and you care about deeply, and let's say they're going through a hard time, let's say they're going through addiction, and you throw everything you can at them. Go to this place, try this thing, try this modality, try this thing, try this practice. You throw every single thing you can at them, and they never pick any of it up. They just want to go to you and they want to tell you how they feel and they want to complain, and that's okay, right? But they don't want to heal. And so you've just taken all that energy and all that work that you've done for them, and you've thrown it into like a black bottomless pit. How many of you have done that before? How many of you have done that with people in your lives before? This is the thing a little bit about generosity, right? It's good to want to give. We want to give. We want to give. It's good to want to give, but we also have to be really, really mindful of who we give to, of what we give to, and to make sure that that energy that we're giving from our hearts out of love isn't going into this black bottomless pit. And this is something to reflect on, right? The generosity, the wanting to share, like maybe the way to navigate Instagram as a business owner, as a mother, as the sole breadwinner of my family, maybe the way to navigate this energy is to make sure that anything that I share on Instagram has really, really, really been digested and integrated and woven into me more. It's become a medicine that's maybe years old for me that I'm then sharing, because that feels like it's not just taking that energy and throwing it into a black bottomless pit. It's taking that energy and putting it into, it's sort of like seed bombing an abandoned lot. You're throwing that energy up wherever it needs to go. You're going whoosh, whoosh, and the seeds land wherever they need to. So I think that that's how I have landed with navigating it. It's making sure that I'm not exploiting my own generosity, and making sure that I've really integrated and even given my own community time to integrate what is being shared before it's being shared on a platform like that. And how do we rise? How do we rise? So In a big, big way, the energy of the rainbow comes through for me so much right now. Because you can't help but see the rainbow. And this is the thing, like light and rainbows are always going to be seen. They don't need to be seen through a specific platform. They don't need to be seen by a specific people. Like a rainbow, and many of you know this from my book, Ritual Baths, and work with Space by Mama Medicine with the aura cleanse, but a rainbow just shines and everyone sees it. The rainbow aura is the aura that I see around my A++ celebrity clients. They're the ones who everybody knows who they are. They're out there all the time. They have this like big, bright rainbow aura often. And I think about the rainbow. I think about how everyone sees the rainbow, and also how amazing is it that the rainbow is actually an elusive illusion. How amazing is it that the rainbow is so beautiful and it's so magnificent. You stop everything to look at it, but if you go to touch it, nothing is there. It's an elusive illusion. And one moment it's there and the next moment it's gone, right? How do we rise? How do we rise? How do we as witches rise? We become the rainbow. Nothing can touch us actually then, but everyone can see us, everyone who's meant to, right? But here's the thing. What is a rainbow? A rainbow is made up of trillions of raindrops creating prisms of light. It's all of these raindrops coming together, creating prisms of light. You know, for the people who are familiar with my work, whether it's you've been on an element retreat, or you're a member of Space by Mama Medicine, or you've done Witch Wound, or you've done Witchwise, for the people who are familiar with my work, one of the things that you get, and it's outside of all of my teaching, it actually doesn't have anything to do with me. It's just a energy I create around me, right? One of the things you get is community, especially in Witch Wound, because these are people who you're attracted to something called Witch Wound because you're ready to go deep into your healing journey. You're ready to no longer suppress yourself. You're ready to shine your creative light with the world. So what you get in Witch Wound, a big part of it is community. And it isn't like you're forced to engage with the community all the time. It wouldn't even really be possible to have FOMO around it, fear of missing out, but you just get like an amazing healing community. And this might be in one part because I have very, very strong community guidelines with my community. Like it's not about fixing each other. It's not about always having to suggest each other. It's beautiful to be a healing and generous person, but also you can go to a place where you can just share and receive, right? So it's almost like Witch Wound is the collection of the raindrops that create the rainbow. And I think a lot about legacy. I think about my work and I think a lot about legacy. What am I really leaving behind? And to me, it's community. It's the whole entire rainbow. And it's like, nobody can touch it, but everyone can join it. It's just, it's protected. It's protected. And if the agenda, maybe since the beginning of television, but I think maybe going way, way back further than that, if there is some agenda to keep us separated from each other, not talking to each other, not expressing, not sharing with each other, to keep us on social media and pretend like that's connection, if there's some agenda to divide and conquer, then the best possible thing that we can actually do is come together, And if we can't come together and dance around the fire on a full moon and scream and sing, which, yeah, we do that too, right? But if we can't do that all the time, then we can do it in a container like Witch Wound. So the first thing that I feel when I ask, okay, if witches, real true healers, people really sharing authentic healing in the world, are getting shadow banned, well, then we have to just come together and be the rainbow, right? And yeah, and mostly I think too, just trusting where the light goes, trusting that the light always goes where it needs to. I say a lot, I've been doing this work for a long time. I've been doing this work for a long time. And, I want to get just a little bit more specific about it. There's a video that I'm sharing with an email list who has come on retreats and stuff with me before, about one of the times where I had to experience a lot of resilience in my life. And it was back in 2012, and I had opened a yoga studio and healing center, so beautiful, and also had to close it. I get into the whole story there, so I'm kind of rushing through it now, but I had to completely let go of my business identity in that moment of closing down my business and really taking like huge work and having to make it much smaller. I needed that in my life at that time, but it was also sort of circumstantial and forced, right? But my work, it just went where it needed to. Like my light still shined. That business wasn't me. It didn't define me. My work still went where it needed to. I closed down the business, and I was just having my baby at that time. And I was like, man, what do I do? And all that old scarcity consciousness and insecurity came up. And so I got a job at like a basement in a vodka bar as a hostess. Well, at night while my daughter was sleeping, I just felt really kind of, I think, disenchanted too by the whole healing world, because it's actually way more competitive, I think, than it seems. But, even though I was trying to leave, or maybe even I was trying to hide my light from myself at that time, because it was just really challenging. Anyone here who has ever opened a business and closed it can understand. People were reaching out to me going, hey, when is the next moon ceremony? Hey, can I come for a healing session? Hey, can I join you? Can I just come spend some time with you? Can I just come over and you show me how to make some herbal medicine? And I was thinking to myself, man, I wanted to be this brooding Scorpio hiding in her cave and, under the Scorpio rock, basically. And the light just kept on reaching out to me, and people were remembering my light, and then people were sharing my light. And then I had to start going really big with my work again. So I think too, it's community, but I think it is really, really important to trust that the rainbow always shines where it's meant to. The light always goes to where it needs to. It's actually not that important to stress too much out about these things. I would much rather have a smaller coven of people who would really, really, really understand my work, of people who I can really help with discernment and, take my experience and have just a real wisdom share and give people a spiritual bullshit detector, basically, like ability to navigate. If there's so much noise out there in the spiritual world, ability to navigate, getting from one place to the other, getting home to yourself, simplifying enough to get home to yourself, basically, right? I would much rather have a smaller coven with people that I could really go deep with than have to stress and worry and focus all the time about having more, having to be bigger, having to be this, having to be more. It's more important to me that what comes through is real and it's potent, and it will land for the people who it's really, really meant to. And so in Witch Wound, I'm going to focus a lot on building community. I'm going to focus a lot on also how can you create community within your own covens? Because ideally for me, folks taking Witch Wound, Witchwise are going to really be inspired to step forward as healers in the world. You know, a lot of times people ask me, like, can you mentor me? Can I apprentice with you? And it just feels just a little bit off to me, because I look at that person and I just see so much wisdom and so much strength and so much healing magic. And so Witch Wound is about really finding your own healing magic. It's really discovering what you already have within you and then letting it add to the light of the rainbow and bringing that light out into the world. So I'm going to focus on community. I'm going to focus on healing the creative soul, the healing soul, the one that has been banished for lifetimes upon lifetimes upon lifetimes, right? Like just reclaiming her and going, come on, we need you now. The world needs you now. Come on, come out of hiding. Just like my clients back then did for me. They were like, oh, no, you can't be in hiding. Nice try trying to just go into that dungeon vodka bar. You need to come out, right? So I want to do the same thing for the inner witch, just bring her out of hiding. And then what could she do? What could she be capable of? What light could she shine in the world if she was no longer in hiding? Let's find out. And I also want to focus on community, you know, bringing the witch out of the shadow into the light. And I want to focus on really strong discernment in the healing world. It's really interesting to me how like real authentic healing, like real like healing is getting pushed underground, while the stuff that's called energy healing, but it's like, oh, this will give you whatever you want. Do this. This will give you things. Do this, is being amped up. Or healing through substances, like, sorry, but like ketamine. That's a big thing on Instagram right now. Healing through substances. It's like, wow. So it's no problem if that person then gets addicted to that substance. Like the person sharing that doesn't even think about addictive personalities and all of that. It's amazing to me. So if you're pushing like chemicals as a form of healing, or if you're pushing stuff as a form of healing, or any like kind of more like materialistic, that's getting amped up, and there's just a lot of noise. If you're pushing for women to exploit themselves, or people to just exploit themselves and exploit their stories as a form of healing, that's getting really amped up. But then the real healing, the healing that brings people together, the people that put us in alignment with our natural world, that kind of like the real healing that kind of gets us to just really humble down, is getting pushed way underground. So this is an interesting thing that's happening. So I really want to also offer a lot of discernment with what is out there in the world. I'm not really the kind of person that's gonna like point out what one specific person is doing and go, see this person, don't do that. But I more like to look at the larger energy behind why is this happening right now? Why is this being brought forward? Because these different specific things that are bringing brought forward, that honestly, I don't think I have a better word for it. I think it's just like fake healing. I don't know. Sorry, like really like Scorpio today, just fake healing. But these things that are being brought forward that are just like fake healing, it's about creating the discernment inside and strengthening, I think, the internal compass aspect of the intuition enough to be able to discern, okay, this is going to be good for me. This is going to be bad for me. This is going to be me exploiting my generosity and giving too much. This is going to be a win-win-win for everyone. And ideally in healing, we're creating a win for the healer. Like ideally in energy healing, for example, if we're facilitating energy healing, we're also receiving the energy that we're giving. People, you who are energy healers here today on this webinar, people must ask you all the time, don't you get drained? Don't you get drained? If you are open to receiving the healing that you are giving, you never get drained. You're just a vessel, right? So I really want to get into discernment with all of that. And I really want to get more into working with the nature spirits. I really want to get more into sharing more and letting the curtain drop down around what energy healing really is for me. I think you get essences of it in my work all the time with like the You Are Nature self-led retreat offering, or with Witch Wound, Witch Wise. But I really feel I can now put to words more the energy that I work with. So sign up for Witch Wound. It's going to start on the autumn equinox. You're going to love it. You're going to get so much from it. I want to say too, the workbook for Witch Wound is going to be a little surprising. Honestly, the workbook for Witch Wound is surprising me. I'm writing it and I'm going, is this okay? So you get an amazing community. You get 7 weeks, 2 hours. We're going to get into a teaching, a discourse. And then I'm going to be doing different ceremonies with you. Specifically with this round of Witch Wound, at the beginning, I'm going to have you engage with a ceremony where you meet a specific plant ally that you are going to work with throughout the entire time of Witch Wound. And each week, there's going to be more of a deepening of that connection with that specific plant ally. Ideally, for me, you would walk away from this really understanding how to call in spirit guides and spirit allies, but really understanding it. I need the whole 7 weeks for this. It's very, very important work. And yeah, it's going to be amazing. So join Witch Wound. You get 2 hours a week for 7 weeks of my wildness of all of this creative chaos. You get that live, and of course you'll have access to it after, and you'll be able to join in at your own time, so it's no pressure if it's not in your time zone. You get a workbook, you get an amazing community, and I think you will walk away with a really strong feeling of remembering who you are, remembering who you always have been, remembering why you are here and what you are here for. So I want to invite you to just get comfortable. We're going to get into our ceremony now. And I'm going to be working with this beautiful, beautiful plant ally that has come through for me for this beautiful witch wound portal. And I want to know, and you can type it into the chat, do any of you know who she is? Do any of you know who this beauty is? Yes. Yes. So this specific leaf rattle that I have here, I gathered her today. She gave me her branches, but it's her and her sister, and they're together and they're overlooking my new outdoor bathtub. So when I take a bath, I just look up and the cedars hug me. And so they wanted to come into this today too. And it's just a beautiful, strong, grounding essence. So I just want you to close your eyes, and if you're laying down or you're sitting, however is comfortable for you, maybe you're even standing, maybe you're even dancing. I just want you to feel that there's 2 spirals located in the soles of your feet. A clockwise spiral in the left foot, counterclockwise spiral in the right foot. If you have a unique, beautiful body, then just working with the energetic foot. Just feeling these spirals, giving you strong, strong roots like a cedar that go way down into the earth, as tall as the cedar grows, is as deep as her roots grow. I'm just feeling that connection. As above, so below. And then I want you to begin to get into your breathing. And just a big, deep breath, inhaling through the nose. And then just let it out. And again, inhaling through the nose. And again, maybe you can kind of force a yawn here. Maybe there's a yawn that wants to come out, just inhaling and root sound. Again, inhaling, letting it get into the back of the jaw, almost like the exhale could come from the occiput, the occipital ridge, just like you're yawning from that place where the head and the neck meet up, that little indent right there. You're yawning and you're exhaling, just releasing some sounds and letting the inhale just be present and natural. And letting the exhale just be so expressive, taking all the repression, everything that you've held in, every smile that you felt like you had to force, just taking it all and just letting it out. And keep going like this. Letting go of the control on your breathing. Just letting yourself sit. Breathing a bright, golden light into your lower back, into your kidneys, into your sacrum. Just breathing a bright, golden light of freedom and expression into this place. The breath is natural. You're just seeing the light in the kidneys and the sacrum. Taking both hands, placing them on that big, beautiful heart of yours. Breathing into this place, a golden and violet light, like the aster flower. Placing both hands, the corners of your eyes, fingertips gently, gently touching the corners of the eye. And then the inner corners and the witch's eye too. Noticing the colors you see, even if all you see is black. Just noticing the colors you see. Same fingertips to your throat. Same fingertips to your belly. The eyes are closed, allowing them to open. And allowing yourself to just be here and now and present. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that this gives you a little bit more clarity on my vibe with Witch Wound and also everything that I want to bring forward into Witch Wound. I have to say it's very, very hard for me to put what is going to come through for Witch Wound into words. And a lot of that is because every time we meet, it's more transmitted through like an ancient oral tradition of just channeling energy of what needs to come through for the group as we gather together. And it's held by specific topics and ceremony. So it has some structure and container, but there's a lot of water in it for the medicine that is meant to come through to just flow. So I want to thank you for just listening to your intuition and joining if it feels right for you. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope it inspires you to just be the freaking rainbow and just shine and just trust that your light is going to go wherever it is meant to. That's what I'm going to do. And even if you don't join Witch Wound, I hope that I can be an inspiration of being the rainbow. Take care. Bye.